The Gilded Age referred to a time period in the late 1800s when the American society had become innovative and wealthy while also being corrupt. The term was coined from the author Mark Twain from his book, The Gilded Age, A Tale of Today. With the advent of the Gilded Age of the late 1800s, private companies began assuming control of a large portion of the economy.
Adam Smith, a Scottish economist, wrote the Wealth of Nations books. In his books, he went over the ideas of mercantilism and capitalism, and really vast mercantilism and uplifted capitalism.
As America grew, companies began to combine and form monopolies. A monopoly is when many smaller companies doing the same business are bought by larger companies for purpose of controlling commerce. These larger companies form pools, which is an agreement between companies to divide up their market and to all sell their products at an agreed upon price so that each of them could make a profit. Other companies joined together as a trust. They elected a board of trustees to run their operations. Some companies were controlled by outside groups who owned a lot of their stock. These were called holding companies. All of these combinations became known simply as trusts. In this time period, immense wealth was accumulated by a number of individuals, often referred as robber barons or captains of industry. Some of the most important included Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, Jay Gould, and Henry Ford.
One of the earliest entrepreneurs of the Gilded Age, Cornelius Vanderbilt, started out with only $100 to begin his fleet of ferries. After which he managed to buy out all of his competition, he expanded his steamboat network across the United States. With a collection of a fortune from his steamboat earnings, Vanderbilt then realized that railroads were the future of American transportation. And with that in mind, he invested all of his fortune into the purchasing and developing of the New York Central Station, connecting the eastern and western sides of America under a united rail network. Vanderbilt was well known for his shrewd nature and always believing in achieving his desires by brute force, if necessary. Vanderbilt's modern-day net worth equates to almost $215 billion. One of the most notable entrepreneurs of the Gilded Age was an entrepreneur by the name of Andrew Carnegie. He was a Scottish immigrant that led to the rise of the widespread use of steel in commercial structures. By employing the use of the Bessemer process of steel production, Carnegie managed to secure the contracts of the Eads Bridge project being built over the Mississippi River near St. Louis. Carnegie Steel Corporation, founded in 1892 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, was responsible for the dominant production of steel in the U.S. before its assimilation into the U.S. Steel Corporation under J.P. Morgan. By the time of his death, Carnegie had amassed a fortune of $480 million, the modern-day equivalent of $13.6 billion. Rockefeller was a pioneer in the oil industry during the early 1900s. He was responsible for the formation of Standard Oil, which lit the homes of the majority of Americans during the late 1800s and early 1900s, before the installation of electric power plants, however, which powered light bulbs. Rockefeller had organized the Standard Oil Trust as a vast corporation comprised of refineries all around the country. By 1911, however, the U.S. Supreme Court had ordered the dissolution of the Standard Oil Company on the grounds of violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. This decision led to the creation of smaller companies, many of which evolved into the modern-day oil corporations of Exxon, Mobil, and Shell. Rockefeller's net worth, however, speaks differently about his achievements. His estimated net worth was close to $340 billion in modern-day currency. John Pierpont Morgan was the son of an influential New York banker. However, his father did not let him handle the family business. After his father's death in 1890, however, Morgan assumed control of J.S. Morgan & Company. With the company in hand, Morgan began to explain the influence of his business by merging various companies, producing several types of goods, into a single most dominant business, which was J.P. Morgan & Company. One of J.P. Morgan's largest achievements would be the creation of General Electric, which enlightened the nation with Thomas Edison's light bulb. Morgan also managed to bail out the U.S. Treasury during the Panic of 1893 by purchasing the amount of gold required to restore the Treasury surplus. So you can already tell how rich this person is. Many of J.P. Morgan's companies, such as Chase Bank, is fully functional at present day. Henry Ford revolutionized the production of automobiles and assembled parts in general with the promotion of the conveyor belt system. Ford was most successful in the mass production of America's most widely distributed vehicle during the 1900s. Due to Ford's principles of generously paying his employees, the $5 plan as he called it, and for promoting excellence in each unit he produced, Ford had amassed huge success in the business of automobile production. Ford had expanded his business to an international scale by creating many branches in Asia, Europe, etc. Ford was the first generation of business tycoon within his family due to his rise from the rural lifestyle of the Ford family farm in Michigan to the field of automobile engineering. And while working for Thomas Edison, he eventually sought his guidance and broke off from Edison's company to form Ford Motor Company in 1901.
Philanthropy was an idea in the 19th century that many owners of big companies went by. The general idea of it is the love for mankind. So they dedicated their money to the service of poor families and students by donating to nonprofit charities and universities. Some examples of this would be Andrew Carnegie for the Carnegie Mellon University, or Cornelius Vanderbilt